So last time I told you guys how to not cook a steak, but this time I'm going to tell you guys how to cook a steak. So I'm going to be using this ribeye over here. This is probably the best cut I've ever used. I really don't want to mess this steak up. And also, I've been heating up my oil just because it takes a while and it's kind of a waste of time for the video. I'm using beef tallow. I don't know, it's either tallow, I don't know. That's the oil that I'm using. It's I think it's like animal fat or something, but yeah, so you just gotta, I put a tablespoon on. We're gonna check the temperature. I think I want it to be around 180 to 200. But since the pan is heating up, I feel like 194 is a bit too much. But anyways, let's just put our steak on, because I turned the heat down a bit just so it can cool down, and we just gonna have to wait for the steak to cook. And so yeah, we'll flip it after like every 30 seconds I'll flip the steak. And I'll probably just cut to each time I flip it, so yeah. Alright, so now let's flip our steak. It's gonna be our first flip. We're just currently trying to get a good crust, so we're gonna flip it maybe around 6 times. Well, not 6 times, but until we get a good crust. You always have to use feeling, basically, and see when your steak has a good enough crust for you, and then check the temperature. So let's just wait till we have to flip it again. Alright, now let's flip it again, just because I'm trying to get a good crust, so when the whole thing is like crunchy and brown, that's a good sign. Also, make sure to check your temperature regularly, just to see if you're in that range of 180 degrees Celsius to 200. And if it's not, then you can turn down the heat, you can turn up the heat. And yeah, just keep waiting until we flip it again every 30 seconds just. Alright, so now we're about to flip it again, and as you can see, the crust is getting better and better every time we flip. You don't really just want like the mushy crust. You want more of the crunchy crust, which is when it gets darker and darker brown. So I think this is not brown enough for me, so I'm just going to keep cooking it until it's brown enough for me. Alright, now it's time to flip again. I haven't checked the temperature of the steak yet, so I don't know how well it's cooking on the inside yet. But, so I think we're just going to check that right now. But currently it's a little undercooked, so we're just going to keep cooking it. It's only at like 20 degrees right now on the inside in some parts. We want it to get to that like 47 degrees Celsius-ish, so that's when we rest it, because the steak cooks while you're resting it. So we want it to be a little undercooked after cooking it, so that it can be a perfect medium rare steak. Alright, but anyways, let's flip it again. That is a very good crust right now. That is a crust that we want. But I also have to I also have to cook the sides as well. So we have to be mindful about the temperature on the inside. Alright, now it's time to flip it again and see if we can get that really good crust that we want on both sides. Okay, that is a very good crust. So this steak is looking good on the outside, but we just gotta make sure that it looks good on the inside. Alright, now let's just flip it again. Okay, this is a very, very good crust. This is the exact crust that we want, because we want it to be crunchy. Alright, now the steak's a good color, so we're gonna add the butter and we're gonna baste it. I accidentally burnt my foot here, but because the butter splashed into the pan, but whatever, it's worth it for a good steak. So we just gotta wait for this butter to melt, and while we're doing that, let's cook the sides, because the sides are usually, like, we also want to eat the fat, I guess, on the outside, and if it's not cooked, then it's really not that tasty. So just gonna cook each side. I'd say the big sides around 15 seconds each, and then the smaller sides around 5 to 7 seconds each, just because we want it to not be overcooked. Also, this steak that I'm using is quite heavy, so it's kind of hard to just hold it up fully. Especially since I put the butter in the pan and there's a lot of oil and I don't want to drop the steak. But anyways, now that the butter is melted, we're gonna change the side of the stove to a non hot side, just because we don't want to keep cooking the steak while basting it, because first of all, we don't want to burn our hands with butter, and second of all, when you're adding your basting, it should be cooked on the inside, or not cooked, but almost cooked, and we don't want to keep cooking it. So you just want to turn off the heat. I'd probably baste it around 30-ish times on each side, and then flip it, and then do it another 30 times, and then take it off, and then you're basically good to go. So, yeah. Alright, now it's time to flip, and then we're just gonna do the same thing on the other side. So baste it for like 30 times-ish. Alright, then once you got your perfect crust and your perfect internal steak, you gotta put it on your plate, and then let it rest for around 5-ish minutes, and then you can cut inside of it. So then just clean up while you wait. Alright, now it's time to cut into the steak. This is how the crust actually looks really good. It looks nice and crunchy. It sounds good. So let's cut into the steak and see if we got that medium rare that we want. And it looks like we did. As you can see, that is pink. That is good. It is buttery. It is a little juicy. Probably should have rested it for maybe a minute or two longer. But that is a really, really good steak, in my opinion. So thank you for watching.